Hey, my friend, need to chill. What's up, man? Welcome. We're gonna have some random stream today. Just wanted to turn the stream on and say hi. So let's get to work, shall we? How are you doing, by the way? There we go. Manny Gaming as well here on YouTube. What's up, man? What's up, guys? Casing Phenomem. Hola, hola. Orange Biba. What's up, guys? Surprise stream today. I just felt like it. I just felt like I haven't seen you guys in a while, and I just want to have some fun, enjoy some 3D, do some texturing. Let's just chill and let's see what happens. Let's see what we get. Need to chill says, I've been good. I'm good. I've been working through the Oni course. Nice. What part are you on the Oni course? Manny Gaming says, learning more from your tutorials. Awesome. And Casing Phenomenon is modeling a plane. I've never modeled a plane. I don't think I've ever modeled a plane. I've modeled cars. I did a tank once. Wagons. A boat. Several boats, actually. I've done several boats. And I did a submarine once. A simple cartoon submarine. But that's it. No planes. 3D Maniac, what's up, man? All good, all good. So, if you guys have seen this guy, well, you guys remember we were working on some haircuts, right? So, this is the Goblin right here. And I decided that it was going to be a good idea to do a texture, right? Because when we were doing the haircuts, we only had a base material. So today we're going to be just like going over the whole thing. I'm not going to explain every single step unless you guys ask for it. If you guys are asking questions about the process, then I'm happy to do so. But I just want to have fun, chat. If you have questions about 3D, about life, let's go for it. So yeah, this is the character right there. And I believe this is the high poly. There we go. There we go. That's the high poly right here. This is the sculpt from ZBrush. It has a very weird shader, so let's change that. Let's just make it a little bit darker so we can see. There we go. Not bad. I'm doing great, 3D Maniac. Quite nice, to be honest. It's been a bunch of very interesting days. It's been fun. It's been fun. Okay, so first of all, we need to add the eyes in, and we also need to bring the teeth back. Because otherwise, it's not going to look as nice. So let's bring this sphere right here, rotate it 90 degrees, and we're going to get this right there on the ocular portion. Go. Not a Tuesday. Yeah, my friend, just a little surprise stream today. Make this a little bit bigger. Now, here's a common thing. Eyes don't always need to be perfectly circular. You can change them a little bit. Like, eyes are actually not perfectly circular. If you've ever seen the prosthetics that people use when they lose an eye, it's not like a glass sphere or anything. It's like this very interesting shape that mimics the shape of the eye. So, yes, it's round-ish, but again, it doesn't have to be perfectly circular. There we go. Now, we do need to get this thing some clean UVs. So, let's go over here. And for eyes, whenever I'm doing UVs for eyes, I like to make a cut. So I'm going to say UV, delete UVs. I'm going to do UV. We're going to do a very basic camera base approach. And then I usually cut like this line right there. So UV, cut UV edge. That's it. Control U, Control L. And this one right here is the most important one. So you want to make that one a little bit bigger. Get as much real estate as possible, and this one, since it's on the back of the eye, can be way smaller. I know this breaks one of the rules that I always tell you about, which is to keep things again, like uniform on the UV space, but it's one of those things that you like. Again, it's not that big of a deal, and especially on those areas and for games, not that much of a problem. CS Shroom says, hey man, love your channel. Any tips on learning anatomy? I'm going to be releasing the anatomy course very, very soon, Shroom. It's going to be an in-depth theory and sculpting based approach. So we have like a theory, like a class where I teach you all of the muscles, and then we sculpt those muscles inside of ZBrush, and then we're going to 3D print the whole thing. So it's going to be a fun class. I'm working on it right now. So it's going to be available soon, hopefully early June. Early June is the, like, definitely before our anniversary. We're going to have our first year anniversary on June 23rd. So definitely before that, we're going to have the course available. Now, let's jump into ZBrush real quick. What kind of anatomy do you like learning about, Shroom? Like stylized anatomy, realistic anatomy? Because the new course is going to be realistic anatomy, but we already have a course that's about stylized anatomy. So, again, there's a little bit for everyone there. Goblin. Just a bit this one. Need to Chill says, I'm almost done with the muscle blocking of the Oni course. Nice. David just finished his Oni as well yesterday, I think, which was quite interesting. He managed to generate something very, very cool. Okay, so we lost the teeth. That's unfortunate. Let me see if I have them somewhere. Huh, where's the Goblin? It's on the desktop, I think. There we go. Cool. So those are the teeth, and this teeth that we have right here are okay. Again, they're not perfect, but they're okay. Before we like optimize them and give them some UVs and stuff, I definitely do want to clean them up a little bit. So as you can see, this one right here, I'm going to use Move Topological. BMT is the brush, so we can push this one out and it's not like overlapping horribly. Same for this little like fangs that we have here on the front. So I'm gonna like push them forward. A little bit of overlap is fine, but you don't want to have it be like extremely obvious. There we go. Realistic anatomy is what I'm trying to learn. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, then this next course that I'm working on is gonna be right down your alley, because we're gonna be doing a superhero. It's a superhero like a project, and superheroes are amazing to to learn about anatomy, and not only that, they're like a really fun project as well. So what I'm gonna do here is I am going to do a duplicate, and then this one up here I'm just gonna see remesh. This is one of those things, and we had a talk about this on the other like socials. Like, should you retopologize everything? Should you not retopologize everything? It depends on the elements, right? It depends on the objects. Clean the house. What's up, man? Welcome. And in this particular case, since the object is fairly, let's say, like the geometry is fairly simple, you don't really need to retopologize as much. So there we go. That's pretty much it. As you can see, that's a retopologized mesh. And since there's not a lot of detail on this teeth, there's a little bit of it, but we can get it back inside of the substance. I'm gonna see if I can just like let's do an other groups here. There we go. So you can see each teeth is kind of like a separate mesh, but it's all actually the same mesh. I'm a little bit worried about that one right there. And then there's that one right there. So those two meshes, those are going to be problematic meshes. We need to delete those. So I'm going to say delete hidden. And now that we have this right here, these are now clean meshes. Well, semi-clean meshes. And we can just use like UV master here. So I'm just going to go UV master, no symmetry, and just unwrap. This should give us a single island for every like teeth. And again, it's going to be a simple thing. It says, hey, Ave, I'm so excited about this summer because I'm starting a show reel to put out for my placement year next summer. So I'm going to do a lot of work. That's great, man. Remember that you can submit for our portfolio review. Or if you want, you can send me some of the stuff over in Discord, and I'll be happy to help you out to polish that that reel as nice as you can. Jay says, just when I thought I was done sculpting, I see the tricep is too fused with the body. I hope it won't make my retopo problematic. It could. If you're still in Dynamesh, I might push it a little bit out, if possible, Jay. But actually, no. The tricep is a problematic area. It can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so we're now just gonna export this guys right here. So export here on hair cards. Let's call this Goblin teeth. There we go. We're gonna go in Maya, and we're gonna bring the Goblin teeth in. Oh, where did not tell me that that's a different scale? Oh, they're a different scale. Oh, that sucks. Okay, that's fine. So, unfortunately, they're a little bit of a different scale. Oh, well, fortunately, the pivot point is right there, so should be able to find the insertion point quite easily. So it's right around there. Perfect. Excellent. So let's grab all of the teeth, and we're going to combine them. Delete history, first transformation. This one, let's hide it for just a second. And this is it. These are the mesh tools, mesh display. Let's do a soften edge. These are the main elements that we're going to be needing for our substance painter. Thanks, man. This is just a practice, to be honest. So, it says, of course, I would love to. My main company is Room 8 Studios, since their hair cars are in my country, Cyprus. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Amazing. That's great, man. Cyprus. I'm going to have to visit there one day. I keep the arms a separate top tool till the very final projection. That helps not have it merged with the body. Yeah, that's a good option, but unfortunately, if you do that, the connection between the arm and the torso can get a little bit tricky. Like, you're gonna have a weird line or a weird overlap. I usually prefer to have my stuff like a single piece, and then at the end, if I need to divide stuff, I'll divide it. So let's call this Goblin Eyes _low. And I'm gonna duplicate them. This duplicated one is gonna be called _high. We're gonna say mesh and smooth. We can even give it another smooth. This is for the bakes, right? The teeth, we're gonna do the same thing. So this one are gonna be called Goblin _low. And we're gonna duplicate, and this ones are gonna be called Goblin _high. This one we're gonna say again mesh and smooth, just one time. This one is going to be called Goblin Head Low. It seems like there's already something called Goblin Head Low. That's unfortunate. It could be a material, so I'm just going to go and grab all of these elements, assign existing material. I'm just going to call this the Lambert. I'm going to go to my Hypershade, say Edit, Delete Unused Nodes, and it's going to delete any other material that we're not using. So by doing that, hopefully we should be able to call this Goblin Low. No? Okay. If this doesn't work, I'm just gonna call this Goblin Low. There we go. And then this same name is gonna be on the high. It's gonna be high. We grab high, high, high. Control G. This tree. Control G. Now I do want a different material for the eyes. So on my on the Goblin Eyes Low, I'm gonna assign a new material. It can be just a simple Lambert. And this Lambert's gonna be called Goblin or M Goblin Eyes. There we go. How long have you been doing 3D art? This year, like around this time, actually. So I started 3D, I think it was a June or like May, June of 2011. So it's been 13 years since I first started working with Maya. Actually, my first 3D software was technically Cinema 4D. I did like 2 tutorials of Cinema 4D, but like literally a week after I started using Cinema 4D, I got into a Maya class and I started learning about Maya. Let's go here to the UVs, and pretty much the only thing I want to do is I'm just gonna grab all of these shells right here. Let's move them down, and since they're small, I'm just gonna like literally pack them together and have them right around there. There we go. So these two guys are also going to have their own material. So a Lambert material. This is going to be called Goblin or M _ Goblin _ let's call it main. I don't know, whatever. We grab all of this guys. File, export selection. It's an FBX, of course. Where is it? Share cards, and let's call this Goblin main. And then we do the same thing over here. So we grab all of the high polys, and this is gonna be Goblin main high. Perfect. Let's see, we got a couple of questions here. Is it okay to sculpt a bit in Blender and use Substance Painter without ZBrush because I cannot afford? Yeah, actually, I've mentioned this before, Tactical Goat. That's a great name, by the way. Blender is perfectly fine, right? Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong. You're never gonna hear me say something like evil or angry at software. I like to be like a software agnostic kind of guy. So if I can do something inside of Blender, I'll use Blender. If I can do it inside of Maya, I'll use Maya. If I have the licenses for other softwares, I'll use other softwares. But you can totally do all that stuff inside of Blender. Gus, what's up, man? Welcome. Now, I am gonna say something, Tactical Goat, and that's the fact that even though Blender is really strong at doing sculpting, ZBrush is stronger, right? So if you want to do this, again, like more professionally, then eventually I would recommend learning about ZBrush because it has certain tools that are a little bit more difficult to use within Blender. Clean the House says, I have a question. I've been seeing this software called Marmoset 3D. Oh, dude, Marmoset is amazing. I've been using it for a long time. Marmoset Toolbag is a rendering, baking, and what's the word, in the presentation software, and it's really freaking good. So here, let me show you. Oh, do I not have it there? Open scene file. No. Let me see if I have a scene around here. Has to be somewhere. Let's see. Oh, that's unfortunate. I thought I had that one. Let's see. That's one, for instance. No, it's not like Cinema 4D. This is only for rendering and presentation purposes. So this right here was an exercise I did a long time ago for a course. It was for hair cards. Actually, we're using a little bit of this. And this is Marmoset. So Marmoset has its own hypershade. It has its own light setup, so you can set up your lights on your scene. You can create like a bunch of different like interesting lights and stuff. For instance, let's say I just want to add like a little bit of blue light on this side. I just click on the light button, change the color of the light, and there we go. So we got light on the scene. Right now I got ray tracing enabled, so that's why you're seeing that sort of like flickering. But if I turn it off, it's pretty much like a game engine, right? So the reason, or let's say the main focus of Marmoset is allowing you to have a really nice preview of your element so that you can showcase it on your portfolio without having to do the full setup inside of Unity or inside of Marmoset, or sorry, Unreal or other engines. However, they've been evolving quite a bit, and in the last couple of versions, especially this one, Marmoset 4, they now have a full texturing suite. So if you want to do texturing like Substance with layers and masks and generators and things like that, you can do it here inside of Marmoset. It has a baking system as well, so you can bake your normal map information, your high polys, your low polys, and it's just like, again, very cool. No, it does not work with Marmoset, or with UDIMs, sorry, Wave, just yet. You can have multiple materials and assign the texture to each material, but by default, I don't believe this version has a UDIM support. So hopefully that's something that they bring out on some of the newer versions or new revisions or something. But yeah, it's a very cool software. I really like Marmoset. It's really nice. Cesar David, what's up, man? Welcome. How can duplicate special rotate in ZBrush? I'm not sure if there's one, but maybe some sort of like micro mesh or something. Yeah, I agree. Like having UDIMs inside of Marmoset would be a game changer. But yeah, it's another software, really good. What type of references do you use when you create fancy characters like orcs and goblins? You know, the typical stuff, man. Lord of the Rings, World of Warcraft, goblins. Like I feel like talking about fantasy from a sort of like academic standpoint. Tolkien, as you guys know, with the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, and all this stuff, he reimagined how fantasy works. So he made fantasy something serious, or at least that's what I've like gathered from the things that I've read. Because before Tolkien, dwarfs existed, gnomes existed, fairies existed, dragons existed, all of this, but it was always this sort of like whimsical, magical, fairy tale sort of thing, right? And Tolkien was the first one to kind of like bring them into a more sort of like realistic kind of style. And thanks to him, now we have this so many variations of fantasy. So that there's so many like versions and things about Tolkien and stuff. Yeah. So if you're gonna be using or doing a lot of hard surface things, Cesar, in those cases, Marmoset is actually better for bakes. But for the stuff that I do, and you're gonna see that in just a second once we do the bakes with this guy right here, for just organic bakes, which is what I do the most with characters, I've never had an issue with Substance Painter. Like, Substance Painter is just so freaking good. So I use both, of course. For texturing, I've been using Substance a little bit more than Marmoset, but for presentation, Marmoset is king. Like, if you want to have quick, cool renders, Marmoset, just throw it in Marmoset. You can even bring in your like high poly like elements from ZBrush with poly paint into Marmoset, and just have it there, and it just works. Let's create a new project here. Let's start at 4K. We're actually, like, depending on how well we advance today, we might do the final presentation of this guy inside of Marmoset. So there we go. That's our little cool goblin guy right there. He's not super heavy. Like, if we take a look at the poly count for the whole thing, we got 36,000 triangles. So it's, I mean, a little bit heavy, but nothing unmanageable. And nowadays with technology like advancing so fast, it's something that can easily be handled by an engine. Over here, we're gonna bake at 4K as well, and very importantly, we're gonna match by mesh name on a couple of things right here. Go. By the way, all of these things that I'm talking about, guys, this is available on the Substance course on the site. Let's go over here. Let's jump matching by name. There we go. Everything's matching. We just do a quick check to make sure that we don't have any sort of like red areas or big problems. Yes, of course, there's going to be these red areas right here, which have no polygons, so that's expected, and we just bake. Eye of Scar says, I don't like using Marmoset that much. I've created my own looked up presentation studio in Unreal Engine for it. Yeah, Unreal Engine is a great option if you don't want to like buy an extra license. But I really like, for instance, the thing that the Marmoset has with the what's the word? With things like the 3D view that you can embed in ArtStation, so you can see the topology and the normals and all that stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that I think it's worth it. It's valuable. Is it okay to use ZBrush instead of manually doing the retopology for like portraits? No. I'm sorry for the direct answer there. No. And we talked about that in the latest short that I uploaded. If you're gonna be a character artist, you want to make sure that your topology is always great. Unless you're doing something like a statue or like a, I don't know, like a bust, like a marble bust or something, then in those cases, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to do a portrait and you want to show that you know how to do a proper portrait, then of course it's very important to do proper topology. Now, not every single part of your character needs to be like manually done. You could do things, for instance, like what I did here with the teeth. You can see the teeth have horrible bakes. That's a lot of overlapping. We're just gonna hide it a little bit right here. But you can definitely like have certain elements be like automatically remeshed and other things be done like manually. Oh, of course I remember X Normal, man. Here, I'm gonna show you, or I'm gonna talk about, we're gonna go down memory lane, guys, very quickly. The first studio I worked at is called CGBot. I worked there, I think it was like 3 months or something. It was just a small period. And these guys, they do outsourcing. They're here in Mexico, and they do outsourcing for a bunch of different games. And back in the day, again, I'm talking about 13 years ago. This was in like August of 2011. They had some art tests that you had to do. And the first art test was to do a die, like a D6 die like this. And you were expected to do like some bakes and some quick textures instead of Photoshop and everything. We didn't have Substance Painter back then. And we did the bakes with XNormal. So that was the first one. And then after this one, there was another art test to do a hammer. And I remember I did the test, I got accepted, I went there. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue because it was like quite far away from my home city, so it was a lot of traveling. But yeah, it was a cool experience over there. I met a lot of cool people. Ats Fox, the guy that helps me with the concept arts, he was working there as well. I think this one right here is actually his concept. this little picture that you see right there. So yeah, XNormal. That's a wow. That's a big one, like an old software there. It's still very useful, by the way. If you don't have any other tools and you want to do some bakes, XNormal is still like quite valid. Retopo 3D Code. I've never done Retopo in 3D Code. I have 3D Code. I'm paying for my license and everything, but I've never done it. So I'm not going to be able to give an informed opinion about that one. Clean the House says, talking about Unreal, I'm going to be learning it this year, starting, and I was wondering how, as a 3D character designer, I would incorporate Unreal into my projects. As someone else was saying here on YouTube, Clean the House, if you're going to be learning Unreal, then a very good pipeline would be to start using Unreal for the presentation side of things. So doing some camera animations, some particle effects, some post-production inside of Unreal is quite handy because you can get some really nice results. Okay, so I was thinking about making this Goblin yellow. What do you guys think? Like when I originally envisioned this Goblin, I was thinking about this sort of like greenish yellow as a base color. Do you guys like it? Or should we go like the traditional green? You guys decide. Should we do green or yellow for this Goblin? Or, I don't know, another random color. Kids need to know how to texture using Photoshop over UVs like back in the day. Yeah, right? I know, Eye of Scar. I still do it every now and then. Like when I'm texturing things like signs or posts or just like a newspaper or like a magazine, I'll do it in Photoshop. I'll duplicate my layers. I'll do my roughness and my metallic manually and then just export things out. It's a nice one. The eyes need a contrasting color. If you make skin yellow, green eyes or something. I was thinking about red eyes, to be honest. So they're definitely gonna be like a sort of like a brighter sort of like red eye sort of stuff. Pale, like a cave goblin. Yeah, I was thinking about like a pale yellow, pale green sort of thing. So this will be green. Thing is, I've seen so many green goblins. Let's go for a yellowish one. Kind of reminds me of like the hobgoblin, right? So we're gonna go for something like this. Okay, let's start adding some cool layers now. Bluish purple, like a drow. We'll probably do a drow in another time. I've Scar. Remember the Quixel suit for the texturing solution? I never liked the Quixel suit 3D Maniac. I tried it. It was just not clicking. Like I just didn't. It never really matched for me. Wait a second, they changed my... they changed the interface again. Freaking hell. Oh, I don't like this. Is there a way to... There we go, show all. Oh, that sucks. I don't like when they change the interface and then they don't leave you the option to not use the new interface. Casey Foster, what's up, man? No, you are the man, my friend. You guys are what keeps this thing on. It's thanks to your support, guys. It's very hot over here. We've had like this heat wave here in Mexico. It's horrible. I only have a freaking a freaking fan on my office, so with the machine over here, I feel like I'm in a sauna. I see an option for better range of texturing and not just procedural, but the update after every click drove me nuts after a while. Yeah, I like the materials that they have. They were good. Let's change this. I totally didn't like the direction they took with Mixer, though. Very kind of meh. Well, I was happy when they got bought by Unreal, because all of their 3D assets became available for everyone. So that was cool. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Epic Games and Unreal because they seem a little bit like monopolistic or something, but they've done a lot of really cool things for the 3D like industry and from 3D artists. Maybe for video games or for players, it's not the same thing, but for us artists, they've done a lot of stuff. Very, very cool. And the new Unreal Engine with all of the features that they're adding, it's also quite exciting. I was reading some comments where people were saying, "Oh, you're not gonna need retopology anymore because you got Nanite." And yeah, Nanite's really cool and everything, but you still need to know your basics because not every studio is gonna be using Unreal Engine 5, and not every studio that's using Unreal Engine 5 will be using Nanite, and not every asset on a project will be using Nanite. So again, cool tools, but you still need to know the basics. Says Eye of Scar says, when I was at Ubisoft, even the branch of Anvil I was using didn't have undo either. Oh, that's tough, man. That's tough. Oh, did you guys ever texture, like properly texture in ZBrush with like Spotlight? I hated that pipeline. It was so unintuitive, and you not only, well, you had undo, but everything was baked in a single layer, so that was just like so difficult. Clean the house. It's 4 a.m. here, sadly, and my eyes are shutting. I'll catch you later. Yeah, don't worry, man. I'm not sure if this is gonna be on. It's probably gonna be on here on the channel tomorrow, so it's just like come back later if you want to see the full process. Adam says, "Hi, Aveliel, did you teach us about rendering and compositing using After Effects?" I'm not sure. Like, you specifically, or you mean here on the channel? I've thought no, I actually haven't taught After Effects. Sometimes I teach a little bit of After Effects to some of my students, depending on the project that they're doing. But I'm not a post guy, to be honest. So I know the basics. I do my own editing for my videos and my tutorials and everything, but I'm not doing like crazy stuff inside of After Effects. CyberCybot, saludos desde Chile. Saludos hasta Chile, mi estimado. Ojalá andes muy bien. Y bienvenido. Yesterday I watched your ZBrush course, but unfortunately I'm unable to exit fully because of money. Oh, Gotham. Well, we might have, not sure yet, but we might have some discounts on our anniversary in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. And I know money can be tight. I understand that. I try to help. We have giveaways as well every now and then. So again, stay tuned here on the channel for some of that. Yeah, I used to poly painting ZBrush using Spotlight. Even Modbox had stencil texturing the same way. Even Mario has the same workflow. Yeah, but at least with Mario, you can have multiple layers and blending modes and things like that. ZBrush, I don't think it ever had that sort of like what's the word? That sort of flexibility. I used Marty back in 2016, 2015 for a couple of months, but that's when the like substance started like gaining more strength, and I just switched. And since the kind of stuff that I do is a little bit more real-time related, I don't need to have as many UDIMs. There we go, that looks good. A texturing artist friend of mine told me it was his go-to due to so many workflows things. Yeah, for Mari, yeah. Yeah, it's very flexible. One thing that I definitely don't like about Mari is the pricing. It's definitely a little bit on the high side, I think. Especially for studios, I know they pay quite a bit for their licenses. Does anybody know how to make a creature translucent without his own parts overlapping and without dithering opacity in Unreal? You're probably gonna have to use some sort of... It's not a mask. There is a way to do it. I remember doing something similar. Ooh, this was a long time ago. For a client that didn't pay. We were doing this sort of like spiritual animals. And there are some notes, man. I don't remember them out of the top of my head. But there are some notes inside of... what's the word? Inside of Unreal that can help you with that. It has to do with facing angles and facing ratios and things like that. But it can be done. Yeah, Mario's like 90 a month or something. It's worth it for what it offers. And yeah. It's worth it. The thing with the market that I'm in here in Mexico, we have small productions. To be honest, like we never work with AAA budgets, so therefore we don't use AAA or that like heavy like softwares as much. So usually with things like ZBrush, Substance, Maya, it's more than enough for the kind of productions that I'm helping with or working on. Is using mask and blending mode on Unreal? Yeah. There's a couple of modes that you can use to try and blend the elements. Let's go for like a mustard color right there. Modo plus Mario is still cheaper than Maya. No, but Maya with the indie license is very, very cheap, man. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's not like common knowledge, but I've been using Maya Indie for the past like 6 or 7 years, and as long as you fulfill the requirements, which is a specific type of revenue or income, a specific type of project and things like that, I've been totally fine. And it's only like $300 for a full year, so I don't think it's expensive at all. Modo I've never used, to be honest. I've heard some cool things for modeling, or I've seen some cool things about modeling in Modo, but I've never actually used it. See, Metal Gear, yes, Blender is free, but when I started learning Blender, this was like 4 years ago, I was also like told like, oh, but Blender is free, you should try it out. And yeah, it's free, right? Because there's a lot of plugins that they're like, okay, it's free, but you definitely need to get this plugin right here, and you definitely need to get this add-on right here, and you definitely need to get this other thing right here. So when you start adding up like plugins, you're like, this is not free anymore, right? So yeah, I'm totally like pro Blender. Like if you're learning 3D and you just want to get into the door and see like how the 3D world works, then it's a great software to start with, to be honest. But saying it's kind of like saying League of Legends is free, right? It's like, oh, League of Legends is free, and then you end up spending $500 on skins. I feel similar to Blender. Like, yeah, it's free, but there's a lot of things that you're gonna do there. Cybercybot says, te felicito, Abraham, eres fuente de inspiración. Dude, like that you just said makes my whole day, because doing this, like creating content, can be tough at times, and just hearing that you guys are benefiting from the videos, from the shorts, from these live streams, it just like means the world to me. So thank you, man. Thank you for saying that, and I'm glad I've been able to give something back to this amazing community, because I'm sure Eye of Scar is not gonna let me lie. Once you get into the industry, as long as you're not a freaking douchebag, this is such an amazing community. You make amazing friends. There's so much to learn. Everyone is like willing to share their knowledge and just give you tips here and there. So again, as long as you're not one of those guys, this is such an amazing and fun like industry to be in. Yes, there's like bad things like crunch and canceled projects and things like that, as with every other industry. But this also is such a rewarding community and such a fun place to be. Yeah, Lesal, I'm from Mexico. Soy de México. Si quieres preguntar en español o lo que sea, aquí andamos, sin falla. What canceled project hurt you the most? Well, I was mentioning a couple of minutes ago that there was a project that I was working on, and we were doing this like magical creatures. And you guys want to see it? I don't think I've shown this in a while. I don't think I've shown this ever. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find it here. Where could it be? Here. Has to be around here. There we go. Let me see if I have a video. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to show you guys screenshots. Because I uploaded the full render sequence to Google Drive, but I don't remember if I uploaded a full video. So this was a project that I did, not only me, it was a bunch of my friends and I, when I was first starting my little studio, Critical Hit, back in the day. This was a company. I'm not gonna give names because I don't wanna just like add more fire to, or add more gas to the fire. It was just a mess of organization things, and they wanted to do these things. It was an animation that they wanted to project on some TVs, like giant TVs, and it was kind of like a wallpaper sort of thing, or like a screensaver. So there was no dialogue or no anything, but it was a fun project. I mean, I don't think I have the video, but let me get you a couple of screenshots so that you guys can see it. And this was very challenging. This was in 2018, so this was 6 years ago, and the challenging thing about this one is that they wanted this sort of like 6K render. There was a very, very big render that they were asking for. And am I still on? There we go. Oh, sorry. This thing is not working. Very heavy. Let me see if I can get a frame. There we go. So they wanted this forest. There we go. Look at this. So they wanted this big forest, and it was a long sequence. It was like a 3-minute sequence. It rendered like at 6K or something like that. So really, really intense. What's the word? Really, really intense amount of frames that we needed to render. And when they first approached, I was like, damn, how are we gonna do this? And immediately, this was back in Unreal Engine 4, so we didn't even have Nanite or anything like that. And I was like, Unreal, we need to do this in-game. We need to do a sort of like a AAA game representation of what they want, so that we can render this fast enough for any changes or any sort of like production things that they want. And we did this forest. So my team and I, we were in charge of doing the art direction. Well, I was in charge of the art direction for this one, and it was this forest. And then we had this like cute little sort of like magical animals. You can see this is it's kind of like a rabbit. We're seeing it from the front. And it was a transparent rabbit that had like this magical tattoos and particles like flying off. And there was this whole animation where animals would go in, out, they would interact with each other. They would just like, it was a very fun, very whimsical. I loved this project. But unfortunately, they did not pay at the end, and there was another bunch of issues that happened during production. So this was one of the saddest projects that we got at the studio because it was canceled. So all this hard work, it was like 3 months or 4 months of work. All this hard work was just never seen, never seen. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Lord Tellum, what's up, man? Welcome to the chat. Eres como el Dross Rotscan del modelado 3D. Oh, hopefully I'll get there someday, man. But thank you. Let's see. Yeah, it was. They did pay some parts, but usually, what's the word? Usually, when you are doing a project, you finish the project and then they pay the final part of the project. That final part is what they didn't pay. And again, it was not our fault because we were finished. The thing is, there was a couple of other teams that were doing other shorts, and those other teams didn't finish their stuff. So due to them, we suffered as well. It was a mess. It was just a mess. Just a random stream, Lord Tellum. Just a random stream today. Just having some fun here, man. Just having some fun. Arthur Motion says, hello, hey, finally I can join the live stream, 8 a.m. here. Yeah, I was trying to do this at a different time as well, so we can interact with the other half of our audience, because I know most of the times when we're doing the morning live stream, we're interacting with people from India and people from Europe, Italy, Germany, things like that. It's like, let's give our American friends and our Latin American friends a little bit of love as well. Leslie says, he aprendido 3D en 2 años en la universidad, me da mucho miedo a la industria, sobre todo porque comienzo con 25 años. Every industry is complicated to enter, man. Like, every industry is complicated. If you guys have friends that are, like, doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, like, every single industry right now is, like, hard, right? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you, tell you, oh, no, it's easy, you're gonna be there in no time. Every single industry is a little bit difficult. But the best thing that you can do is, first of all, don't give up. Second, keep improving. Like, every time you improve your portfolio, you improve your skills, you become more valuable. And third of all, try to, I think I mentioned this in one of our latest video, try to work a little bit on the network side of things. I'm not sure how big the industry is in your country. Here in Mexico, it's a small industry. So one of the things that has helped me quite a bit is try to create the industry myself. I'm not saying I've created the industry. I'm just saying if I can go with other industries, other types of work environments, and show them what's possible to do with 3D, and then adapt or create some projects, that's also a way in which you can, like, start creating more portfolio and more experience for yourself. Your name is Arabic. I thought you're Arab. No, I'm from Mexico. My name is Abraham, or Abram. In Spanish, it's pronounced Abram. In English, it's pronounced Abraham, which I hate. I hate how my name sounds in English, so that's why I go by Abe. But yeah, I do believe the name has, like, some Arabic or Middle Eastern origins. Okay, cool. There we go. Let's do another field layer here. As you can see, we're using this last layer, this sort of like greenish layer, to fill in everything, kind of like blend things together a little bit more, so that it's not like overwhelming on all of the skin things that we did. But that layer, or all of these things that we just did right here, this red, blues, yellows, that was very important. It's a technique that I like to call the clown technique, because your character looks kind of like a clown. We go over this on what is like chapter 3 of the substance course, I think. And yeah, it's just a fun way to add all of this variation to the skin. Now, one layer that I really like adding, it's a fake subsurface layer. So I start with a red mask, and then I add a fill layer, and I use the thickness map that we bake from the element. We need to use a levels here to invert the object, and once you invert this, you set this to linear dodge so that it adds on top of the color, and you can play with the opacity to get a slightly nicer effect right there. So this is a very cool trick that that you guys should have on your arsenal. How to add a fake subsurface to your character, and it's fake because this is just painted, right? So it doesn't matter what type of like light scenario you have. It will always look like there's a little bit of blood running through all of these elements. What does linear dodge mean? Do software tools? That's an amazing question, and I don't like doing a lot of like self promotion and stuff, but if you go to my YouTube channel right now, and you go to the content, you are gonna find this video that I'm about to link on the chat. Give me 1 second. That's called blending modes. So this one right here will teach you what each blending mode does. Linear dodge is an element, or it's a layer that lightens the whole thing. So it will grab light information from both layers and it will like multiply them. Okay, so it will make them like it will bring the values and the brightness up. Yeah, right? It's a very useful bit. It's a little bit technical, so it's not like super exciting or anything, but if you like just like take a couple of minutes to understand the principle, it's very, very useful. It dodges linearly. Can you bake subsurface scattering into albedo map like the way you bake? Yeah, so right now, if I were to export the layers, this thing right here will be baked down on the diffuse layer, on the color layer. So that's one way in which you can like bake this fake element. Now, if you want to bake the true subsurface, You can also do that, but you need to create a layer similar to this one, and then again, probably like multiply it or linear dodge it on top of the whole thing. It's crazy the amount of people getting fired recently, especially from Disney and Pixar. Yeah, and it has to do a little bit with economics, and that's the sad part of about what we're doing here, because I feel like studios are now realizing that they cannot force good products, right? And we all know this. As artists, we know that, like, you cannot force something to be good. And they've been running with this sort of like idea that if they just like throw a bunch of money at the project, throw a known IP or something, and just hope for the best, then the project is going to be successful and they're going to be able to get like 10 times, 20 times their investment. And that's not how it works. So unfortunately, I feel like the crisis that we're going through right now is exactly that. It's the big studios realizing that it's not really possible to get that sort of like return of investment that fast. So things need some time to really, you know, to really, like, what's the word? Take off and get that reputation, get that sort of like build up. We saw that last year with Baldur's Gate 3, right? Game of the Year and everything. It took them what, like 6 years to make or 7 years to make? It was a long time. But good projects, good games, they need that. They need that sort of effect. Just display spots. Gotham says, hey, my humble request, could you put the ZBrush course in YouTube as a playlist? No, my friend, I'm sorry. I understand where you're coming from, but unfortunately, it's thanks to the premium courses that I'm able to do this. As you guys know, this is not my only sort of like project. I got a couple of other things going on. And if I just like gave away all of the premium courses for free, it would be very difficult for me to get the time to do this. So I understand that the price can be a little bit. Well, I don't think it's expensive, to be honest. Like we've had this conversation before. But yeah, it's you need to see this as a sort of like an investment to your education. So if you really want to be an artist and you want to learn the whole thing, everything's on YouTube, by the way. Like not by me, but by a lot of other people's. But it's important that that you see that there needs to be an effort, and that's why I try to price my courses in an accessible way so that people have access to them. But at the same time, I cannot just like give them away for free. It takes a lot of time for me to produce one of those courses, so hopefully you understand. Lord Tellum says the ZBrush course is 100% worth the money too. I agree. I think it's really good. I'm never gonna publish, guys. I'm never gonna sell you a course or something that's not worth it. Like that's not who I am. And I'm not greedy. You guys know that. I'm not doing this for the money, but I do need to pay for, you know, the energy, pay for softwares, pay for things. Software Tool says, just got your Retopo course over the weekend. Thanks. Awesome, man. Thanks for the support. And hopefully you're enjoying it as well. Let's add a little bit more blue here on the eyes. Eyes and mouth tend to be a little bit colder. So that's why I'm adding a little bit of this sort of like blue hue. I also want to do that a little bit here on the ears. And then here's what we're going to do, software. And this is exactly what Eye of a Scar is talking about. This blue color right now is sitting perfectly on top of the other colors. So it's not really doing any blending. It just sits on top. It looks like it's blending because I'm using this brush that looks like an airbrush or like functions or creates this sort of like texturized effect, but it's not actually doing any sort of like blending. When I set this to any of these blending modes, like multiply for instance, multiply will make the colors darker. It will grab the darkest color from both layers and it will multiply, giving us this darker effect. A linear dodge will make them brighter, okay? And then overlay, for instance, will make kind of like a mix between both of them. So every single like section or every single block of these things right here will give you a slightly different effect. In this case, for instance, we could even try something like soft light. And if I change the value of this one, so if I make it brighter or darker, the way these things blend will also change. So there are certain blending modes that work with lighter colors, and there are certain blending modes that work with, what's the word? darker colors. So every single blending mode has a slightly different sort of like approach. And this technique that I'm again using here with this brush is sort of like an airbrush technique, where I'm using I'm using the dots erase factor or element to add a lot of texture to the element. So this is not something that we sculpted, right? Like all of these little micro pores of the texture, they were not sculpted on the original mesh, but by adding them here on the actual final texture, the whole character is going to look way more complex, which is the main goal right now. And by adding the color variations, some blues, some reds, some yellows, we're also making sure that the skin looks more interesting, because the skins in general, they tend to have a lot of color variation. Like if you take this thing is called, it's a little bit more technical, but you guys like technical stuff, right? So there's a type of photography called cross-polarized photography, cross-polarization, and it's a specific type of setup that you need and lenses, I believe, that remove the shininess of objects. So look at this, for instance, the teeth right here. This is non-cross-polarized, so just like a normal picture, and this is cross-polarized. So you get this result where you're seeing the pure colors of the object. You're not seeing any light information. It's just sort of like the albedo of the color. And you can use this for characters. So for instance, if you get a picture of a character like this and you see the cross polarization, you're gonna see that the general tone of the skin is not uniform. You're gonna see this sort of like bluish hues, purple hues right here, reddish hues, a little bit of maybe a yellow hue. So all of this, what's the word? All of this sort of like color variation on your face and on characters can make for a very interesting process. Let's see. Ave, I will share my portfolio in ArtStation Works. Could you send and say what's... yeah, man. Gotham, we do that every month, and we're actually going to have a portfolio review this Friday. So you can still see... what's the word? You can still submit inside of our ZBrush, inside of our Discord channel, if you want to participate on that one. I honestly don't know that you could find a course with as much content as you've put into it for the same price. Everyone else charges $100. Yeah, and... Again, I love teaching. It's one of those things that I feel like it's one of my personal callings for life, like my philosophy, or I don't know. I just really like teaching. So if I can do it in an affordable way for me and for you guys, I'll do that. You need to submit on the Discord channel, man. Let me get you the link. Give me 1 second. So here. Get the official link. Okay, so this is the official link for our Discord in case you guys are not there yet. When you join, you're gonna be in the wait room for a little bit, and after you're approved, you should see the portfolio review channel, Gotham, and you're gonna be able to submit your stuff in there as well. Do you use Resum UV? No, I don't. I don't. It's a very specific thing. Like once you get into those sort of like specific softwares, like just one software for, like for Topology with Topogon, or just one software for bakes, if we were gonna do like, I don't know, X normal. It's very specific, and I feel like UVs is one of those things that you can very easily do in, again, Maya, Blender, even ZBrush. Even freaking ZBrush can do UVs, and they're not that bad. So again, I think it's one of those softwares that I'm not sure I'm ever gonna do. Go. Yeah, Maya UV is really good. Every single UV, or I would say like 95% of the UVs that I've done for the things that I've worked on has been with Maya, and zero issues. Absolutely zero issues. The way that you teach has got me thinking about getting a master so I could teach at the college level. There you go. You're gonna be the next generation of teachers. That's awesome. Yeah, teaching is so interesting. It's one of those things. You learn a lot by teaching. I think I've mentioned this before. You do learn a lot by teaching. And there's something magical about it. I know it sounds like very, I don't know, wishy-washy or very weird, but it's just... Dolfo Ferraz, thanks for the sub, man. Like, teaching you get to see, like, one of the things that I find the most rewarding about teaching is when I see students struggling. And I know that sounds horrible right now, but what I mean by this is when I see someone struggling, and then thanks to how I explain things or how I show things, they get it. And now I see them succeed. Just seeing that transition from I suck and I don't know how to do something, I learn, now I know how to do it and I can do it consistently. Seeing that in someone else is amazing. Like, experiencing that yourself is amazing, but seeing that you can help someone go through that process is just, I don't have words to describe how that feels. Let's add some lights here. Nice! Awesome, Lord Tellum, that's great. I was very nervous the first time I started teaching. But then you eventually get over it. And as with everything, as with any other skill, you get better at it. You get better at explaining things, you get more articulate, you lose fear of speaking in public, you get respect. So it's like with every other skill in life. You learn, you grow, you improve. Yeah, I think it was it Einstein that said if you cannot explain something like simple enough, you don't understand it well enough. And that's definitely true. Like, the more I had to, or the more complex the topics became that I had to teach, the more I had to really understand like things about the 3D world, and that made me a better artist. And I know that this is a very common sort of like a studying technique that they teach at universities, at every university. Like, they say, hey, if you want to learn material, just start asking yourself questions, right? Like, about the material. So create like a questionnaire about that material, and you're going to improve your knowledge, because you're going to be able to ask the questions and answer the questions. So do you freelance or work for a company modeling and shading? So I freelance. Pretty much every 3D artist that I know freelances. Like, that's something that you're going to be doing like quite consistently, I would say. I am the art director at a small studio that's called Hyperlab, and we do VR experiences. So we do VR experiences for museums, we do entertainment things, we do safety things for companies, training, virtual training, things like that. I teach at a couple of universities, and I have this brand, right? Like my channel here on YouTube, my content, all my stuff. How could you update yourself? Because as a beginner, I'm worried about me seeing it works on our station, which is similar to reality. When it comes to more work, it does not have any realism. So you gotta start with assigning a goal, my friend. And there's a video. Unfortunately, this video didn't get as many views, but if you go and look in my channel, it's called How to Pick a Project. That, I think, it's a very valuable video. It got only like 500 views. It was one of the early videos, so I understand why it did. But if you guys are struggling with that, like how to pick a good project so that so that you can improve as artists, that one I think it's really good. I think you can learn quite a bit from that one. So this one of the things I'm gonna do is I'm definitely gonna add a blur. So add a filter. We're gonna blur this a little bit. There we go. Small blur. I just want to have a little bit of color variation. See, that's sort of like spottiness that we get there on the overall skin. It just brightens things up, and it gives me that sort of like interesting variation. But I don't want this to look as dirty, so I'm just gonna like soften it up here with effects. It's just like a little extra layer there for variation. Nick J says, just found your videos today. I really like how you help explain everything you're doing. Top tier teaching. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not worried about AI. Here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you Metal Gear, why I'm not worried about AI, and why I think most of us that are a little bit more experienced in this are not as worried. And that's because we have the experience of working with an art director or with a client that wants so many specific changes on something, and unless you have like that perfect control over AI, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna give you an example. Yesterday, I was playing with my friends. We play a D&D campaign. Well, we play a Pathfinder, but it's just an RPG campaign. And I was using AI to generate some NPC like portraits for the characters that I wanted to use as my villains, as my monsters. I was using Midjourney, and I was getting some okay-ish result, right? Like the typical Mid-Journey image. But it's good enough for my weekly session with my friends, right? And the thing is, I was trying to get a specific character, and I was trying so many prompts. I think I tried like 15 different prompts to get exactly how I envisioned the character, and I couldn't get it. It was not possible. At one point, I was getting almost desperate enough to just bring the image into Photoshop and do some quick like paint over, but I'm not great at digital painting, so I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna do it right here, or I'm just gonna use whatever it is. So unless we get to the point where artificial intelligence can actually read your mind and get exactly what you want, there's always going to be an artist that's going to be doing cleanup, or it's going to be doing tweaks. And again, one thing, and I've seen this sort of like recently, there's been a trend where people are rejecting things that are being done with AI. You see the AI look, and you're like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. It has happened in game like companies and studios where they say we're not going to be using any generative AI. It has happened in like board games. So there's this reaction already in the world where people don't like to see AI stuff on their favorite hobbies and on their favorite things. So that's why, yes, it will change the landscape, the work landscape, but it won't destroy the industry. Like, that's not gonna happen. Do you guys hiring artists with VR experience? Not right now, Dolfo Ferraz. Not right now, but I do eventually like scour my students like art stations to see if there's anyone that I might hire for specific things. But right now, no, we don't have any project that needs extra hands. Yeah, exactly. Like I like using it for just like getting a general idea of how what's the word, of how to approach something. But then you're just gonna be doing more and more things. Let's look for some reference. This is the point where after I have like a basic effect, I feel like it's a good idea to get some reference. And again, here we're gonna find some AI stuff. Like, this is AI, right? Like, do you find this, like, do you guys think this is cool? I don't. I'm not seeing anything here that as an artist I could learn from. Like, absolutely nothing. So I always try to look for references from other artists that have some interesting ideas or interesting voices, right? Like this guy right here, not a good idea either. It's just AI. It's a weird. Does it look cool? Does it look okay? I mean, you could argue that it does, but again, there's nothing unique about this. It kind of like feels kind of like soulless. It will get tougher and tougher to identify what is AI and what is not AI. But as long as you keep yourself training and learning about the world, you're gonna find something. You're gonna find ways to learn from the proper sources. It's gonna be, it's filled with AI. Everything is AI right now. Breaking. Let's look for, did we look for no AI? No, right? It's gonna be even more AI even if we say no AI. That's hard. Let's just look for Lord of the Rings orcs. So what I want to look for is what other sort of like variation in the skin can I add. So this is freaking amazing, right? We see some grays, maybe some blacks or some grays. That would be an interesting idea. This one is interesting as well. Maybe lighter on some areas. I love this character. I know the Hobbit movies are not like super well received, but I really like them. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Do you model personal minis for your campaigns? Yes, I do. Every now and then, when I have time, I do. Oh, this is great. Like, look at that, like sort of like burned skin. That looks really cool. I think we should do something like that. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add a layer, and we're gonna add a sort of like pinkish burnt out color right here. It's very saturated, or quite saturated. A little pinkish, like that. I'm gonna add a black mask, and I'm gonna add a fill layer. I'm gonna look for like a clouds filter, and then if we increase the contrast, there we go. See that? So we can add this sort of like what's the name of this skin condition? I think Michael Jackson had it. What's the name of it? Vitiligo, right? Vitiligo. So something like that could be interesting. And now what we can do here is, again, use some sort of like overlay or like a linear dodge to blend it with the skin, so that it's not like overly obvious. Depends on how obvious or not we want this sort of like condition to be. But we can get an interesting effect. Now, it's not albino. Albino is when you're like completely without melanin, right? So everything is very, very light. So this is more like vitiligo, I think it's called. There we go. That looks interesting, right? And due to the fact that this is random, we get an effect. Who knows how to fix this? We've talked about this before in the stream. Let's do a quick what's the word? A quick test here. How do you fix that seam right there? You could be a modeler for companies in film and VFX. You mean me or who? This Goblin was modeled in ZBrush. That's right, Lortellum. We changed the projection. So we're going to change the projection from UV projection. We can do triplanar projection, spherical projection. Triplanar is usually good. It's going to give us a different result, right? It's going to like vary it a little bit, but we can play with this. We can also change the seed. So the seed is like the generation. Where's the seed? Here. We can do random seeds until we find something. You can see that we get a weird effect right here. And I think, do we have like symmetry turned on or something? I see a little bit of hardness there. Yeah, you can just like play around with this until we find something that that looks interesting. Oh, that one looks good. I like that one. And the cool thing is, after we do that, we can add a paint layer. I'm gonna, of course, remove symmetry right now. And if we want to remove some elements, I'm gonna use this like dirt. We can hide some elements, right? So we want to remove some of this, again, condition on some part of the character. We can just remove it. Now, one thing that I notice here is that this one changes the glossiness a little bit. We haven't done any glossiness just yet. We've been only working on the what's the word? On the color, like part of the character. So yeah, Marcel says, yeah, if you take it serious, you can work for some big BF. Yeah, no, of course. I've worked with some big brands, Marcel, throughout the years. That's another question that I get often, like, oh, why are you not working at a big AAA studio? First of all, location, right? In Mexico, we don't have those kinds of companies, so I would need to move somewhere else, like United States or Canada or Europe or something to do that. And second of all, I found a lot of peace, to be honest, and a lot of what's the success? I'm not sure. Like, I feel really good doing what I'm doing right now. If in the future I feel like I want to, again, try and work my way through the industry and working like bigger AAA projects, I'll probably do that and pursue that. But for now, I'm really happy where I'm at. And I feel like that's something that we don't value as much nowadays. So yeah, I don't know. It's it was one of my personal decisions, because I was in Los Angeles and I was getting some interviews when I was graduating from Noman, but it was my decision to come back here to Mexico. So no one forced me to do that. I made that like honest decision. And I know if you were in my position, you might have like taken a different decision, and that's perfectly valid. But again, I feel like we need to what's the word? We need to really be conscious of about what we want, and we need to be happy of the decisions that we make. So never second guess yourself. Just enjoy the ride. Life is too short to be worried about a lot of other things. And I've mentioned this before. I know we usually see big movies and big productions as like the top like thing to be at or to work at. There's so many other projects out there that are really, really cool as well. So, I mean, you might be a small creator. You might be working at a small indie game, and you might find more joy doing that than working for a like huge AAA production. Yeah, Mexico is also a cheap place to be, or cheaper place to live. Inflation has been quite tough for us as well, so it's not that it's not like it's a free pass, right? But yeah, economy-wise, it's not a bad place. Ice of course says, guys, the industry might seem all sunshine and rainbows, but it's everything except that. Yeah, it's great for a start, but your goal shouldn't be to be in the industry forever. At some point, you need to branch out and find your identity and change that path. Yeah, there you go. And I have Scar here. If you guys didn't hear, he has worked at some like big productions as well. So he's talking from experience as well. And I remember my teachers, again, back at Noman, a lot of them were like, yeah, I really like working at big projects, right? Like Disney, Marvel, and all this stuff. But most of them they were always more excited to share the indie stuff that they were doing, like their own stuff, their own productions. And it was always like very inspiring for me. Like I always find it very inspiring to hear about that sort of thing. Do you have any advice about seeking mentorships? Find an artist that you like, contact them. Be like, hey, I like your stuff. I was wondering if I could get an hour of your time to ask some questions. Make sure to have the questions ready. Make sure that the questions that you have are questions that you haven't not found the answer for. That will be another like big like pro thing that I would tell you. Like if you're gonna hire someone to ask them, hey, how do you make an extrusion in Maya? You're wasting your money. They're gonna take your money, of course. They're gonna accept your meeting or whatever, but you're not gonna learn as much. So you wanna find someone that you want specific answers from. Like I have a mentorship program. I've been working with a couple of students for the past couple of months. But they have very specific questions like, hey, I've already know about ZBrush, I already know about this. I want to like improve specifically this part of the pipeline or of the workflow, and I'm always happy to help. But when someone comes in and they're like, oh, I want to get into the 3D world, can you be my mentor? It's like, yeah, sure. What do you know about the 3D world? Nothing. Oh, well, in that case, it's going to be cheaper for you, and it's going to be easier for you if you just buy a course, buy a tutorial, and start with that. And then you start learning about the 3D world, and once you get couple more, let's say, I don't want to say valuable questions, but just deeper questions, things that you cannot find an answer for. That's when you when it makes more sense to look for a mentor. Is there a reason that it doesn't just default to triplanar? It seems to give much better results. Because of patterns. So the problem with triplanar is if you're working with a material that has a specific pattern to it. So for instance, well, let me save real quick because I haven't saved it. I'm gonna really get angry if this crashes. So for instance, let's say we want to use this. I have this sort of like reptile scale. This one right here. Yeah, of course, I can show the UVs. Give me 1 second, guys. So that's the UVs. Okay. Quite simple. I added a couple of extra cuts on the neck because he has a very long chin. So if I didn't do that, I would get a lot of distortion. So he has this sort of like front part of the neck cut as an element, and then the sides of the neck. But yeah, so this is it. So if I were to... What the hell is happening here? Oh, I changed the... Oh my god. Sorry. Okay, let me use something that's a little bit easier. Like... or not as heavy, because this is a scales material that's very cool. This scales iguana. It's very nice, but it's very heavy. And since we're working at 4K and I'm streaming, it can get a little bit heavy. So carbon fiber is usually the best one. There we go. So let's say I add a carbon fiber like thing right here. I'm gonna bring the roughness down so that we don't see anything. There we go. I'm going to change the color so we can see it better. So that's red. There we go. So having UVs gives me this very nice sort of like uniform distribution of whatever pattern it is that I am using. If I change this to triplanar projection, on some angles, it would look really good. So again, here. In this angle, it looks nice, but there will be some corners, and you can see them right here, where it will blend with the next sort of like plane of your element, and you're gonna get this weird, again, blending effect of the weaving, and it just doesn't look good. So most of the times, your UV is gonna be more than enough, and as you can see here, we get a more consistent, cleaner sort of like effect going around the whole thing. Yes, we have the seam lines like right around there, but thanks to the way the pattern works, they're kind of hidden. Again, thanks to the pattern. So certain things will work better with triplanar, and certain things will work better with this sort of effect. I agree with Eye of Scar. It's not about a brand. It's more about identity, like staying true to yourself and pursuing what you're passionate about. That's right. Do you think it's better for a beginner to follow lots of tutorials to learn, or to start a simple personal project and look up what they need to learn? Oh, that's a great question, Nick. So it depends a lot on your learning style. If you are very like self-thought oriented and you're really good at finding the answers and you're really good at researching and understanding which things work and which ones do not work, then the second option is better. You pick a personal project, you're like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna start learning all of the little skills that I need to get to that result. But there are other people that have a different type of learning sort of like approach that prefer to know the whole pipeline before they try something on their own. Both of them are perfectly valid. And for the second type of like learning approach, I would definitely recommend going with a tutorial. Just follow the tutorial, and once you understand the tutorial, now you do it on your own. A little bit of a mix of both, which is what I recommend when people take my tutorials, is if you feel inclined to follow the tutorial but do it in your own or with your own twist, go for it. Like the Demon Slayer, right? Like the Oni tutorial that I have, you can grab any other concept that's similar to that one and apply all of the things that I talk about during that tutorial into the concept that you're using, and you're gonna get a nice result as well. Okay, so now what I want to do here, because we already have a very nice sort of like base for the whole thing. I'm still not sold on this sort of like scar tissue. It's usually a little bit pinkish. It could be red as well, like a brand or something. I'm not sure. We'll have to decide a little bit later. I'm gonna leave it off. But what I want to do is I want to add a little bit more contrast. So as you can see right here, they always paint. It's kind of like doing a little bit of makeup for your characters, and they always like push some elements a little bit like further in or further out. So GH 6365, I have like personal mentorships. So if you contact me through Discord, I can send you the info about the sessions. They're 1-hour sessions. We talk about whatever it is you have questions about, and we just like go from there. Some people just use one session. Some people want to have multiple sessions. It depends on your specific needs. But we've been talking about this on some of the past live streams, and we might be doing our first sort of like live like mentorship. So we're thinking about this again. I don't have all of the ideas yet because we were discussing the pricing, the frequency, things like that. But hopefully after our first year anniversary, which again is in like a month, we are gonna be like launching our first like live program where we're gonna have weekly sessions with a small group so that we can work in each person works on their own project, of course, but we have like a feedback and tips and tricks and everything. And hopefully that's going to be another learning option for you guys that prefer to have a more one-on-one approach. How many hours do you want to spend on characters for texturing? It depends on the project. Sometimes I've textured characters in an hour when you need them to be like really like done really quickly, and sometimes you can spend a long time. So again, there's a famous quote. I think it's by I'm pretty sure it's by Da Vinci, that says art is never finished, it's just abandoned. So I totally agree there. So here I'm gonna do again kind of like a makeup approach to the character, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this purple color to darken certain areas of the character a little bit more, to bring more contrast, especially the crevices, the inside of the mouth. The teeth we're gonna do at the very end, don't worry about those. For instance, here underneath the cheekbones, can add a little bit of this sort of like purple effect, a little bit on the inside of the ear. And once we change this to an overlay or something similar, the character is going to look a little bit more contrasty, right? That might be a little bit too much right there. Please also I'm not sure I understand your question, Liesel. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to ban you, my friend. Oh, I can't ban you right now. Don't listen to that guy. Yeah, games, films are never completed. They're just released. Yep. You could always keep on pushing things. Like there's no limit to how much detail, how much time, how much effort you can put onto something. If you have the money, the time, the resources to do so, you're gonna get a very nice result. But sometimes production constraints, project constraints, release dates. There's things that are out of your control as an artist. And I think that's one of the things that you were mentioning, right, Eye of Scar? The fact that, especially when you're a student, you think that this, like the AAA places is this sort of like magical place where everyone's having fun. There's a lot of pressure because the investors want to get their money back. So you gotta make sure that you are delivering things, and it becomes a job. At some point, art becomes a job and not art, and that's why all of this sort of like freelance things that people do on the side, they bring that spark back, or that sort of like enjoyment back to the things that we like to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how the world works. So you guys gotta understand that as well. It's not that everything is not everything is super pretty out there, guys. Especially in production. Yep. Yeah, everyone's tired and people are angry when mistakes are made. I've been there. I've been there. It's not fun. Let's see. I think overlay is gonna work here. But we wanna. No, let's try multiply. Yeah, there we go. Multiply with a lighter tone, and then of course we're gonna bring this down quite a bit. So again, it's just like an extra little punch that we're adding there on the darkness. I'm actually not so fond of multiply there. I think it's the tone. It's a little bit too light. There we go. That looks interesting. Okay. Now we're going to start adding some details. And one of the details, of course, is going to be blood. So we're going to add some reds. These are going to be a little bit more specific. So all of this little cuts right here. And that red is going to be very good because it's going to allow me to get a little bit more contrast as well. I will always compare my work with others. Is that good? It depends. Like, we cannot avoid seeing other people's work, right? Like, that's part of us as humans, I would say. Competition is very human. But you should not compare yourself to others in the sense that everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different experience. Everyone has different resources, tools. There's a lot of things that you cannot control that others have, right? So if you're continuously comparing yourself to them, it's gonna be very hurtful for you. Because this is the fun thing, right? Like, we usually compare ourselves to other people that we think are doing better than us. But we don't usually compare ourselves to those that are doing worse than us. Like, what about that guy that does not even have a computer and he's trying to learn about the 3D world, right? So there's a lot of variations there. So again, I don't like comparing myself to others. I like comparing myself to myself. Like, have I improved as an artist in the past months, in the past years, in the past decade, right? So, and when you compare yourself to yourself, you're gonna see it's kind of like a different approach to the whole thing. Why am I painting this instead of using a curvature mask? I want to have more control, pretty much. I don't want that curvature mask to be affecting every single area. So I just want to have a little bit more control, especially on those areas right there. Now, one thing that we definitely need to do now is play a little bit with the glossiness. I feel like we're missing a lot there. So I'm going to add a layer here. And it's only going to control glossiness. There we go. And this is going to be my base glossiness. So it's definitely going to be glossy, but not super glossy. So something like probably a little bit more. There we go. But the problem is, if we go to the roughness map, you're going to see that's a very ugly, boring roughness map. We're going to add another layer. This is going to be very rough. I'm going to add a black mask. I'm going to add a fill layer. And I'm going to use the curvature map here. Curvature. There we go. So as you can see, that gives me what I'm looking for, which is I want all of the wrinkles and all of the pores to be a little bit more rough than everything else. We definitely need to use levels here and invert this so they're lighter. There we go. And we can probably, if we go towards to roughness, we can either overlay or multiply. No, not multiply. Dutch, linear Dutch is to work. And that, as you can see, is going to give me a little bit more of a variation. Because instead of having this super like even distribution of the glossy effect, you can see there on the element, we're going to break it up a little bit. That guy right there. The cool thing is we can always use our sliders here to control a little bit of that glossy effect to see how much we want. And this one is going to be our base for like roughness layer. So if we want the skin to be shinier, we just break this down a little bit. It's going to give us a nice effect right there. That's of course super glossy, but I'm just making a point of how important this extra layer there is. See how it changes the whole element. Exactly, Gotham. We must do our best with what we have. That's the secret there. Let's bring this up a little bit. Now another thing here is we can go to this layer right here. I'm gonna have it on top, and then I'm gonna turn on the roughness as well, so that we can also change the roughness of that pink skin. It's probably gonna be rougher than the normal skin, so that one's gonna also help me break up the effect of the whole thing. Maybe not as rough, but just a little bit rough. And again, if we press the letter C to go to the channels, we should be able to see this variation on the channels right here. Later on, we're also going to be painting a little bit of the black roughness on the lips, for instance, so that they look a little bit glossier than everything else. Now you can see things are looking quite nicer. I'm going to add 2 layers over here on the top. These are fake layers. Well, not fake layers, but these are not layers that are natural to the world. I just really like how they look. It's just going to be like a light layer on the top here. I'm gonna use a generator, and it's gonna be a, what could it be? Thanks, Scar. See you back on the next one, man. Have a good one. Just light. So that layer right there is just gonna give me a little bit of extra shine on the top parts of the goblin. What else can we add? I'm trying to think. So I feel like we're missing something. Yeah, right? Like if we just add a top layer here, like this is how we started. We started with just a very basic sort of like color right here, and now we're building all of this like visual interest on the character so that he really looks interesting. I think we're gonna back to this one right here, and I am gonna add height. So I feel like we're missing a little bit of like surface detail. I'm gonna add a little bit of height and push this thing in a little bit, so it's kind of like the damaged skin, and you're gonna see a little bit of the border of how this thing just like pops out. Why you not done a full character? I didn't do a full character because this was just a practice that I did for a live stream that we had a couple of weeks ago for hair. We were doing haircuts, so I just did this as a quick exercise, but I've done full characters before. That's a cool thing. Once you're in a good position like this, you can just have fun with these things. When you're a student, I do recommend trying to do as many full characters as possible, because you're gonna learn quite a bit. But again, once you understand that, you can just focus on whatever it is you want to do to have some fun. Let me add, I'm gonna try something here. Is it better to make skin pores in Substance or import a normal map from ZBrush, for example? Oh, that's a great question. Let me show you. So, if you sculpt the pores in ZBrush, and you're gonna have a high enough map for the bakes, you're gonna get a good result. But you can see even this pores right here, this is a 4K bake that we have. And the pores look not so great, right? So a lot of the times, what I like to do, especially for finer detail, you can use something called micro details, which is another sort of like method to get a bunch of detail on your characters. But what you can do is just drag and drop a skin texture, like the skin human right here. And the skin human effect, especially when you start playing with the tiling right here. There we go. So you can see it has this sort of like pore effect. We can go for really, really small pores. We're only going to be using the height information on this one. Maybe roughness as well. Oh, wait a second. It added as a mask. It's added as a layer. There we go. So if we're using this skin human flat, we can turn off the color, increase the tiling, and this will tell you how much you can actually tile your object, because at this point, for instance, it's just noise, right? Like, we're not even seeing the proper pores because the 4K texture that we're using is not letting us like get that sort of like result. So in this case, again, we can find a position where it looks like interesting, like this. Maybe you can go to the height information and just like reduce it, and yes, it's gonna give me a little bit of extra detail, like for instance here on the nose and stuff. But once you're in the game, you're never going to be this close to a character so that you can see every single pore. So again, if you have a lot of textures, or if you can bake to a lot of textures, it's a good idea to sculpt it in ZBrush. But if you don't, doing it in texture is perfectly fine as well. Does that answer the question? Hopefully it does. Because you can see, I mean, this looks cool, but again, it's just like, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of like micro detail, and maybe I don't want to have this micro detail everywhere. So it just makes noise. It's just noise at this point. Okay, let's add a new group here. Black mask. And I'm gonna do the teeth real quick. For instance, this one, I'm gonna go to height, and I'm gonna change this to normal so that it ignores any of the information from other layers, and it's just using whatever it is here. And this group mask right here, let me copy it. Copy mask, Control G. We're gonna add a black mask. We're gonna paste into mask. Again, this one, height, to normal. So now anything that happens inside of this folder is only gonna be for the teeth. I'm gonna use this sort of like cracked effect or something, especially to hide the normal information there. Oh my god, are we getting spammed? Shame. It's a shame. What's the word? David is not here. Ban this, guys. Yeah, I'm banning them. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, for practicing, you can definitely do torso and heads. It's a good idea. There we go. Let's style that quite a bit. And I'm gonna remove the roughness because I don't want to use roughness. I want to have this sort of like glossy effects. Now we can just add another layer. This one's gonna be like a darker red layer, brown layer, black mask. I've done a couple of freelance works for that. I actually did one recently. It was an anatomically correct and like a biologically correct fish. It was a very, very interesting one that we're gonna print that real size and everything, so it was fun. I've done some miniatures. And actually, the next course that I'm gonna be releasing, the anatomy course, we're gonna be covering 3D printing. So we're gonna talk about the keys, the preparation for 3D print, all that fun stuff. Yes, this was a random, like, just choice that I made, my friend. It's my original design, original creation, everything. Which again, it's a goblin, so it's nothing super original, right? But it's just it's a very fun character. One of those characters that everyone can do and you can have a lot of fun with. So this one, I'm thinking about, should this one be glossy or should it be rough? Probably a little bit more glossy. Yes, exactly. When you're doing things for 3D printing, Nico, you don't have to worry about a lot of the processes that you normally do for production work. So it's just make sure you have an amazing sculpt, make sure it's not going to be an issue for 3D printing, so no floating bits or super thin elements and things like that. And then yeah, you're good to go pretty much. Depends on the character. For this one, I just did an auto retopo because I wanted to jump here into substance and paint. But if I'm doing like I don't know, like an elephant or something that has like really big prominent teeth, I usually like to have clean retopology as well. I think for the dwarf character, for Dor, we had proper teeth and everything. It'll be more of a yellowish hue, of course. How would you erase those cuts? I would need to go into the normal map and fix this. I have a video on the premium course where I talk about fixing normal map stuff. It's normal map projection, so this teeth is being projected over here. Kaiser and Guigas, thanks for the follow, man. Yeah, it's part of the process, guys. Like retopo, I know not everyone likes retopo, but we're gonna be doing this again seriously. We're gonna be doing retopo quite a bit, so you might as well get used to it. I know it sounds like a horrible thing to say, but unfortunately, that's one of the realities of the world. I think the red's too much. I like it, but it's a little bit too much. Maybe I'm gonna have to move a little bit of the mask there. I'm not sure if it's this one though. Yeah, the crack cannon, I don't love it. It's a little bit better, a little bit brighter. One of the very common mistakes that people make is that they make things way too bright or way too dark. You always want to be playing on this sort of like middle area right here. Will you work in movies? No, I think movies are one of those things that I don't really want to work on. Again, maybe in the future I'll take a look at working or participating in bigger games. But movies, I really don't have any like passion for them, to be honest. Sandeep, send me a message on Discord and I'll give you the information about the one-on-one sessions and we can go from there. Yeah, I think this is pretty much it, guys. I'm not really sure what else I could add to this guy to make him look a little bit nicer. Maybe some Banes. There's a very cool Banes layer. This one right here. Can that. It's gonna make him look a little bit dirtier, which I'm not sure is exactly what I want. Casey says, I recently bought Topology and it makes retopo a lot. Yeah, Topology is amazing, man. I love Topology. It's one of those softwares that really changes the way you do something, and if you really use all of the information that you have right there, it can make things super fun. I really like using Topology because it's very fun. I was actually doing the retopo right here. So the retopo for this guy, it was done completely inside of Topology. And it just makes it super cool. So Lotus says, what's up, Profe? I got a quick question. What's the importance of each bake map? I know the importance of AO, normal, and curvature, but what about the others? Okay, let me just add this layer and I'll explain what the others do, okay? So I'm just gonna add a black mask here, and we're gonna use a... I don't want to use a dirt generator. I'm gonna use a curvature again. levels. There we go. So here what I'm doing is I'm getting the curvature information, so all of the pores and wrinkles, and I'm darkening it a little bit. Then when we set this to overlay again, this is just a very simple layer that I like to add at the very end, and see how much like definition this gives to the character. I still feel like he looks a little bit dark in general, so tone wise I feel like he's a little bit too dark, so we need to brighten him up a little bit, and I'm going to show you how to do it in just a second. But before that, we had a great question about the different maps. So the normal map captures all of the details from the high poly and projects it to the low poly. Position map, or world space normal map. World space normal map tells you what direction all of the faces from the high poly are pointing. So all of the faces that are pointing up, forward, sideways, etc. Why is this useful? For instance, if we want to add a layer of dust on all of the faces that are pointing up, so like on a desk or on a chair or something, this is the map that you use to get that information. ID map, used for masking. We're not using it right now. Ambient occlusion, of course, is where the light gets or has a harder time getting into. Curvature map is, of course, the concave and convex areas of your object. This one is used quite frequently for the... what's the word? It's used quite frequently for the dirt map, of course. World position is where is your character in the world. So if it's closer to the ground, if it's closer to the ceiling, further forward, further backward. And again, for certain generators, for instance, if you have a ground dirt generator that goes from the ground up, it will affect certain parts of your mesh more than others. And finally, thickness map, which parts of your object are thicker or thinner. This one's really good for things like subsurface scattering. That's pretty much it. Topogon is a program for just retopo. It can lay down topology rather quick. Yeah, it's a specifically designed software for retopology, Franco. It's really fast. It's a single purchase, which is really good. Which, by the way, if you get our course, you get a 20% discount on the software as well. But it's just one of those things that makes the whole retopology process easier. Can you do the same thing in Maya? Yes. But for instance, I've been using Maya for a long time, 13 years. And like this head right here, just so that it can give you a clean comparison. Doing this in Maya would take me about 45 minutes. And I've done a lot of heads, so I know my times, okay? So it will take 45 minutes because the tools inside of Maya are very slow. So for instance, let me show you a tool that's really cool here inside of Topogon. Okay, go here, let me add a new mesh, there we go. So there's this called the draw tool. So you draw lines where you want your topology, okay? And then you calculate those, and it will create the points that you're then gonna need to just fill in your geometry. That one was not as precise, but as you can see right there, it can be quite fast. So that's one of the tools. There's another one like this one called the patch tool. So you draw one patch, and then you draw another one, and then you draw another one, then you close the patch, and it will generate all of the geometry right there for you. Okay, so instead of having to draw every single, every single element right there, you can just do it a lot faster like this way. So it's just a more intuitive way to work. For me, one of my favorite tools is, of course, just the draw tool, because when I'm drawing topology, I just focus on drawing the main flow of my topology. And once I'm happy with it, okay, I just start using all of the other tools, like, for instance, the bridge tool and things like that, to start like creating my topology. So it's just for me, it's just a way faster way to create the topology of the element. It's just really good. Topogon. This one is called Topogon. And again, I don't like doing a lot of self-promotion on the live stream, but we released this one right here, the complete guide to retopology course. If you get this course, you get a discount of 20% for the perpetual license of Topogon 3. So if you are going to be doing a lot of retopology and you want to learn like the proper flows and everything, and you want to get the software at a slightly discounted price, well, not slightly, it's a nice discount, 20%. This was a perfectly good way to do so as well. So yeah, commercial over. Now let's add a little bit of light to this guy, because again, I feel like it's definitely looking a little bit too what's the word? A little bit too dark in general. So I'm just gonna add, again, similar to a makeup, I'm just gonna add a lighter green here. Yes, yeah, that's another great thing. Roadstar, like Topogun, can work with non-decimated meshes, so you can bring really high polys here into Topogun, and it's not gonna crash, and it's gonna be very, very fast, as you can see right here. So yeah, it's just optimized. Like the software is optimized to work with all of these retopology tools. Gonna again, imagine like if you're doing makeup, you wanna hit the high points or the light points of your character. Like, I think we've managed to create a very nice leathery skin, which is, of course, part of what makes up a goblin, right? So I really like that. But again, I do feel like it's a little bit light or dark in certain areas. So I want to push some of the objects up. Now we set this to linear dodge. Lower the intensity. You can see that little layer right there. It just brings a little bit of brightness to the whole color. So yeah, that's right, Nico. Franco says, thanks, Abe. I work particularly doing retopo for AAA games, and we're encouraged to find more ways to fasten. Yeah, dude, if you're doing a lot of retopo for AAA games, you gotta get like Topogun. It's like the go-to software for retopology. I started using, I first encountered Topogun again like back in like 2012 or something like that. It was Topogun 2, and it was again one of the best tools. This was even before Maya had retopology tools, so that was the best tool to do retopology. And then unfortunately they discontinued like the production. So they stopped any updates and stuff like that. And then again a couple of years ago they came back with Topogun 3 in beta, and a couple of months ago we contacted them and we did this collaboration, and that's why we did the course. And yeah, it's just an amazing software. Really, really good one. Strongly recommended. Basically, a $20 for Topogun perpetual license. No. $20, you buy the course. And then when you buy the course, you get 20% discount from the price of Topogun. So I think Topogun right now is at 150. So you get 20% off. So you're going to pay 120. So you're pretty much getting Topogun plus the course at 140, which is, I think, a good deal, because you're going to learn the tools on how to properly use Topogun, you're going to learn about retopology, and you're going to get a perpetual license to Topogun. So there you go. Kaiser says, hey man, I recently started my beginner texturing phase, but figuring out when to use each type of material. PBR, standard surface, physical material. So Kaiser, all of those materials work under the sort of like PBR standard, or the metallic roughness or the specular glossiness workflow. And you're not going to see too much of a change at this beginning stages of your texturing journey. I would recommend you just focus on PBR, metallic roughness, which is the most standard one that you're going to find. If later on you start getting more and more into things like shading and look development, then you're gonna need to understand a little bit more of the intricacies of each of those systems. But it's kind of like talking about, I don't know, like Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. They're all like Latin languages. So if you know one, so if you know metallic roughness, it's very easy to sort of like pivot and learn a little bit about the other ones. Is there any big game studios in Mexico? Not really. Most of them are indie stuff or indie studios. There are some like bigger ones, like the one that I mentioned, CGBot, but that one's not a game studio that's producing their own games. They're an outsourced company, and I know there are several outsourced companies here in Mexico. But to be honest, like Mexico is not a like entertainment like country. We don't do a lot of entertainment. So if you want to work in big productions, and that's one of the first things that I tell my students, if you want to work in big productions, you are going to have to leave the country. You're going to have to go somewhere else, because unless you find a job as a freelancer, most of the jobs that you're going to find are going to be again in the United States, in Canada, Europe, stuff like that. So yeah, it's a little bit of an unfortunate situation. Let's have a filter here. That layer that I just added, a little bit from metal edgeware, that's also going to help brighten the colors a little bit more, so it's not going to be as dark. Still want to bring this a little bit down, maybe even here on the tone, right around there. Yes, yeah, Spain and in Europe in general, there's a lot of like smaller studios around like the whole Europe. And I've seen like job postings from Poland, from Croatia, from Germany, from Spain, from Portugal. So there's a lot of like smaller studios, but the big gaming studios, you're gonna find them again in London, in Vancouver, in Seattle, in Los Angeles. Like those are usually San Francisco. Those are usually where the big like studios are gonna be. Does topology course principles can be used in Blender Maya? Yes, all of the topology principles can be used in any software that allows you to do retopology. I use Topogon because it's just like the software that's gonna give you the fastest result, but you can use it for whatever. Let's take a look at this scar right here. So I think we're gonna go with sort of like a cream color. So similar to the burnt skin. I'm not sure overlay is the best option here. Maybe linear dodge? No, that's too much. Linear burn? That's interesting, but no. Hard light. Yeah, hard light looks good. There you go. That's a little bit. Do you recommend using palettes? Do you mean like color swatches or things like that? Not sure what you mean. Yeah, Casey, I strongly recommend. Like, I would only wish my worst enemy to to retopologize using Z-spheres. That's like, oh man, it sucks. I did it back in the day when that was one of the options. It's so wrong. Yeah, anyone can enter the Discord, or I've shared the link. If you haven't seen it, it should be here in the description as well of the live. When you enter, you're gonna be on the waiting room for a little bit, and we'll approve your thing. As soon as we finish this stream, I'll approve whoever entered. Usually David is the one who approves people, and that's just to stop bots and spammers to go into the Discord. Yeah, if your dream job, Lord Tellum, is to work for Weta, you're gonna have to go to New Zealand. There's no other way around it. The roughness on this one's gonna be definitely not rough. Okay, so this one we need to push up because it's not. It's weird. So we're writing. There you go. So the teeth were overriding the glossiness of this scar that I want to add here on the top. So I need to bring this on top of the teeth so that we can control the glossiness now of the scar. I want to work at Epic Games. My dream since I played Fortnite 6 years ago, and your Udemy course helped me a lot. There you go. Yeah. Everything you do, as long as you're doing it and it's getting you closer to your goal, then you're in the right track. You're definitely in the right track. Let's go here. I feel like the eyes look weird now, so not sure. Go with this like orangey eyes. I'm gonna make them metallic, and then I'm gonna bring the roughness down. They're gonna look a little bit more interesting. Not sure about the bronze breath. It's a little bit too much like on your face. Blue. That's way too much. Green. Walker the Maker says, "Hi, I've been doing lots of concept stuff for the past, and for the longest time I went to the cinematic keyframes. How heavy is it on the design phase?" You mean like storyboards and things like that? Because yeah, cinematic keyframes are really important. I would say they really capture the essence of whatever it is you're gonna go for, and directors love to see this sort of like render abstract key shots of the main scenes of the movie or the cinematic or whatever. So I would say it's quite important, Walker. I'll definitely say that that's a very important part of the process. Let's go back with the Goblin. Now, one thing I'm gonna add here, trying to think. You know what? I'm gonna go back to the original like skin damage. This one right here. So I really like the green, but I think this makes things look too similar. I'm gonna make it white. There you go. See that, guys? That's a very small, and this is one like, I don't want to say advanced topic or anything, but it's one of those things that really changes how we perceive things. So this was the original color that I had for the skin. And the problem is that this hue right here is very close to the greens right here. So we're not really getting too far away from the elements. And you can see this if we go to the color. So you can see that the tones in general, especially if we zoom out, the tones in general are very similar. And therefore it looks messy, it looks noisy. There doesn't seem to be like a definition between the different elements. If we make this a little bit lighter, now we can actually see the division between the areas, right? Like this looks lighter in contrast, in hue. Actually, let me go here. And Wacker, you're probably gonna be able to relate to this because this is something that I know concept artists use all the time. So let's grab this image right here and let's go to Photoshop. Oh, you guys are gonna love this. Ooh, FCD, you just discovered Feng Shui design? Dude, that guy. And that's cool. Freaking amazing, man. Yeah, that guy is amazing. Just amazing. Can I just sculpt in ZBrush and make a show reel for 3D characters, artists, and get a job in game industry as a fresher? No. And I'm gonna explain why, Avinash. So let's say you make an amazing sculpt in ZBrush, and you create an amazing reel about the sculpt that you made in ZBrush. If the only thing that you know how to do is sculpt in ZBrush, I'm not gonna hire you. I'm talking about me personally. I'm not gonna hire you to work at my studio, even though it's a small studio, just to do sculpts for ZBrush. Because since we're a small studio, I expect my artists to be able to sculpt, retopologize, UV, textures, sometimes even rig and animate. Just a little bit of everything, because we're a small studio and everyone needs to do a little bit of everything. For a super big studio, maybe, but you're gonna have to compete against a bunch of other people out there that are also really good sculptors. So if you're a really good sculptor and you also know the pipelines that you need to continue throughout the project, right? Again, retopology, texturing, you become a more valuable asset, and it makes more sense to hire you, because when I hire you, you're gonna help me during more time along the way, instead of just hiring you to do a sculpt. Hope that makes sense. Are there any benefits for those who purchase the substance course, for example? No, alright, we don't have any. That course we did on our own, sort of like motivation. But for the Topogun course, we reached out to the Topogun guys, and that's how we came up with the with the collaboration. So here's this, guys. Look at this. This is very important. This pink spots that I added to the character were not working, and the reason it was not working is because the value, look at this, the value between the green skin and this skin right here is very close. If you take a look at the color wheel right here, the light value is at where is it, 55, and the green value is at 33. So there's very little separation between these two elements. So our brain, even though they're different colors, our brain will see those elements as similar tones. But if we bring this to this side right here, to a lighter, paler effect, like right around there, and we take a look at the difference, right? Bring the saturation down, and we take a look at the difference, you're gonna see that this is still at 33, right, the green, but now this one is all the way in 65. So the distance that we've now changed from one point to the other is quite intense. We get contrast, and therefore we get a more interesting effect. So that's a very cool like learning thing right here with this character, like changing the contrast, even though because again, we just literally slide this thing from this element, so the saturation is still the same. What we're reducing is the amount of contrast, right? Like we're making this a little bit paler, and by making this paler, the green looks greener and this one looks like whiter, paler. Therefore we get a more interesting effect. Yeah, character artists are usually, actually, I mean, it's complicated. Well, yeah, I would say if you're gonna be a modeler or prop artist, like that would be like a very like normal entry-level position, and then you get character artists. But then character artists and the pro environment artists, people that do a lot of optimization, landscaping, foliage, trim sheets, like really complex stuff that also have to do a lot with the engine, like optimization. That's a really valuable part of the pipeline as well. Color theory, good guys. Yeah, that's right, color theory. Color theory in practice right here. why is this not moving? There we go. What knowledge should we have to do lighting? You need to study a little bit about cinematic decisions. So I would say that would be like the things that you need to know. Composition, light positioning, storytelling through light is very important. Let's do a quick exercise with this one, okay, guys? So let me export the textures right now. Like, I'm not gonna call this done. Like, I like how it looks right now, but I would definitely like keep working on this if we had more time. But let's bring this into Marmoset so that we can see how this looks. Do you prefer to bake in Substance Painter or Marmoset? I've been baking most of my stuff in Substance Painter, but I was mentioning earlier, Casey, that if you're going to be doing a lot of hard surface stuff like guns and like robots and things like that, Marmoset is better for those sort of elements. The next live will be on Friday, my friends. Friday will be the next live. Actually, we're gonna have to leave the Marmoset stuff for the next time as well, guys. I just got a notice here that I gotta go and wrap something up. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up right here, my friends. Thank you everyone for coming along to this stream. If you want to check more of the stuff, we got a bunch of information here on the channel, on the YouTube channel. And if you want to check more advanced topics, more advanced premium courses, we also have them available at our site, aveleal.com, aveleal3d.com. So have a good night, everyone. We're going to be back this Friday for portfolio review. We're probably going to be starting earlier on Friday because we got a lot of submissions. So make sure to join the Discord, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.